It's only Tuesday, but my brain is tired because we have had some flooding in our basement, and not just flooding, water flooding, it was gross sewage flooding. So we've had a lot of rain here, and that decided to get our lagoon decided to get overwhelmed and just decided to flood into the basement. So that's been fun, and we're dealing with cleanup. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna walk away from that and the stress of that right now, and I thought I'd make a video for you guys. So we're gonna talk about makeup brushes and the different types of makeup brushes that I think, like everyday makeup brushes. If you had to pick what makeup brushes am I going to use, I think these ones would be the ones that you should have. And then we'll talk about the differences between synthetic and natural makeup brushes. And we'll talk about maybe some makeup brush mistakes that people might make. And then we'll end up by talking about some of all those extra brushes. If you really want to get creative, what could you do with all those extra brushes? And then how to take care of your brushes, because that part is important as well, okay? So we're going to start by talking about the top makeup brushes that I think you should have. I really think you could limit your brushes down to 6 or 7, maybe 8. So depending on how much makeup you do, okay? Our fingers could be a good makeup brush, obviously, but your fingers have oils in them, and if you have really sensitive skin, I don't suggest using your fingers, especially if you break out really easily, just because you're rubbing more oils on your face. You know, like I had someone, we were talking the other day, and she was like, I'm just suddenly breaking out really bad right here. And I said, oh, have you been sitting a lot lately and just been putting your hands on your chin a lot more? And she's like, actually, I think I have been. And so I notice when I am at conferences or doing something to where I'm sitting a lot more, that I do tend to break out. And I think it's because I touch my face a lot more when I'm just kind of sitting around listening to something instead of out and doing stuff like I normally do. So anyways, if you do use your hands, make sure you wash your hands well before you use them. But some of the options that I think that you should use are our foundation brush is the very top one. This is, I'm not saying ours, but a foundation brush. Now I do love our foundation brush just because it has this nice tapered look, and it's super soft, as well as I like the round shape because I use our liquid foundation with this brush. I also use this brush for our stick foundation. So I use this to blend in our stick foundation. Once I put the stripes on my face, then I'll blend it in that way. For the liquid foundation, I would take our dropper and I'd put the drops on there, and then I just dab it around my face and I blend it in. I really like this brush because it's dense, and if that's what you're looking for when you get a foundation brush. You want to find something that is packed tightly. You don't want a loose powder brush like this for your foundation, okay? You want something that's tighter because then it's not going to, it will just make a smoother look, okay? It's not going to give you a bunch of streaks and things like that as you're putting your foundation on, okay? If you use a sponge instead of a foundation brush, you can, but just make sure you get your sponge saturated, okay? And don't use the sponge for a long time because, again, all of that bacteria and stuff builds up. And so, that bacteria is on my mind real strong right now because of all the sewage in my basement. Okay, so anyways, foundation brush is one of my #1 top brushes. If you are putting foundation on your face of any sort, use a foundation brush, okay? Be careful with sponges. Use them for just short amounts of time. Don't continuously use them because you can't get them as clean as you can a brush, okay? My next brush that I would recommend, sorry, I've taken notes here. So the next brush I would recommend is a concealer brush, okay? So I have a flat concealer brush that I use. This is actually called our cream shadow brush. You could use it for our cream shadows. I use it for my concealer. And it's easy enough. If you buy concealer that comes in like a compact, you would want to just dip it in there, and that's actually not the best way to spread out your concealer. You should use your finger, and our concealer comes in a tube, and I just squirt out like about the size of a piece of rice, and then I'll dip it in there, and then I use our concealer around my eyes mostly. And so then I like this brush just because of the angles of it. See how it's so flat? And I like that I can get right there in my eyes, and I come down in a triangle shape, and then it's nice enough that I can just fill it in as well, okay? So I can rub all that in. Same thing on the other side. If you want to have other areas you need to conceal, easy enough to use the concealer brush. So this is my second top brush that I think that you should have. All right, the next brush that I think you should have is a blush or a powder brush, okay? I've got 3 of them here, just because I wanted to talk about how there's so many different types of blush or powder brushes, okay? So this powder brush I use daily. I use this one for blush, highlighter. In the summer, I mostly just use bronzer. So I use this for my bronzer a lot. I like it because it also has this on this end, and I use this one for my eyeshadow because I put bronzer on as eyeshadow as well. So it's just like one and done brush. This is called our powder concealer brush. So you could use that end for concealer as well. Like I said, I kind of use it as, I use this side for my bronzer or my blush, and then I use the other side for eyeshadow most of the time. We also have our actual blusher brush, which is a nice tapered brush. For blush and highlighting, you want something that is a little more dense. It's not like a big powder brush that's going to be super loose. It's a little loose, but it depends on how you're using it. This one would be better for like contouring, okay? So if you want to get your jawline to stick out or something, you're going to use the tapered one. If you're putting on just regular blush, like on your cherry parts of your cheeks, you're going to put that on there nice and smoothly there like that, okay? I would say that the small beachfront brush is very similar to the powder brush, but it's a little more flat, but it doesn't come with the angle. And so this one is also a good one for blush and highlighter or bronzer, okay? So blush brush is our 3rd brush that I highly recommend. The next brush that I recommend is a brow brush. Brows are kind of the whole big thing right now, right? Fill in your brows. I can already see like mine kind of needs it right here, so I'm just gonna use our brow liner. This thing is one of my favorite products that we have, just because, we'll talk about brows in another day, but I do like the brow brush because I usually use this side, the bristly side, and I brush it out first, and then I'll fill in my brows, and then I'll use it afterwards to just kind of blend it so that it looks real natural, okay? You can also buy a brow brush that has this really, let me see if I can get it up to the camera, this really small, tight, angled, let me put that down, angled brush on one side, and then it has the bristly brush on the other side, okay? So you can get one of those, and this is really, I also like using, I use this for eyeshadow if I'm using eyeshadow for my eyebrows, but you can also use it for like an accent color in your, for eyeshadow, or like a highlighter for your brow line there. If you're using a lighter, that's what I usually use this brush for, is that. Or if you're using eyeshadow as eyeliner, this really nice tiny brush is good for that. Okay, let's see what else we got. Oh, and then we're gonna kind of wrap it up. I have 2 different brushes for eyeshadow, okay? I recommend 2 different brushes at least. I actually call these 3 different brushes, because this one, our angled shadow sponge brush, I use the sponge brush, obviously it needs clean there, but I use the sponge brush first to put on my lighter color, and then it has the angled one there, and I like that for my crease line just because it has the perfect angle already, so it flows right along your crease line here, okay? And then I have our fluffy crease brush, which is also good for a crease line, but I use it for blending as well. So I'll use it and I'll just lightly blend in wherever I have my colors in, okay? So let's end those up with 2 brushes for eyeshadows, okay? Those are my go-to brushes. I know it sounds like a lot of brushes, but it's really like 6 overall. Foundation, concealer, blush, brow, and then 2 eyeshadow brushes, okay? Anyone else have tips on what type of brushes you highly recommend? There's lots more fun ones out there, but if you're looking for just like a basic, like what brushes do I need, I'd say those ones are the ones to go to, okay? Let's talk about the differences between synthetic bristles and natural or animal hair bristles, okay? So our foundation brush is made with synthetic, and synthetic bristles are tighter usually. They're also easier to clean. Synthetic is obviously not real animal hair, okay? Natural and animal hair is animal hair. Those are usually in like powder brushes. So normally like our eyeshadow brushes, those are real loose. These are made with natural animal hair. They're not as easy to clean. They're porous, so they're better for powders because they're real loose and that powder is going to come off of it easily, okay? Those are the differences between synthetic and natural or animal hair. If you have anything else to add there about that, let me know. That's kind of all I know about it. So I kind of look for that depending on what I want the makeup brush to do. So let's talk a little bit about makeup brush mistakes, okay? Some mistakes that you might make with your makeup brush. I talked a little bit about the concealer brush already, and like for instance, if you have a compact for your concealer and you just dip it right in there, that's not necessarily the best choice to make because let me see, I wrote it down. Putting the concealer on your hand, it warms the product, so then you don't have to use as much product, okay? So like I said, I usually use ours as in a tube anyways, and I squirt it like a piece of rice, about that amount, out onto my finger, and then I spread it out. And it's warmed by my hand already, and I can make that cover both of my eyes easily, and that's gonna make my makeup last so much longer. Okay, the next mistake you might make is maybe using the wrong type of brush for your eyeshadow. Maybe you're using too large of a brush for your crease. So like this type of brush would be too big for a crease. This might be a good blending brush possibly, but not necessarily a good crease brush, okay? So you want something that has, see how it's more tapered at the top there? You want something for your crease that's more tapered, so that you can get it into that specific area that you're looking, okay? This one would probably be better for blending. And don't overblend, obviously. How about foundation? That would be another mistake. Sometimes we want to apply our whole foundation with just the sponge, and then you might miss, like I have all these little divots in my nose, or you might have around your eye line. You might have certain areas that you miss, or it's not blended into your neck well. You have that nice little line there in your neck because you just didn't use the correct brush. So a tapered brush, or even, I would say even like our beachfront small brush could possibly be used as a foundation brush because it's smaller, but it's dense enough, it's tight enough to be able to really blend it in. You won't get those streaks. It just makes a smoother, more airbrushed look, okay? When you're putting on your blush, you don't want to push really hard. So that's something some people do. They'll dip their powder brush into their blush and then they'll just smear it onto their face really hard. That's actually not what you should do. It should go on pretty lightly. All the powder's right there on the end anyway. So tap it in nice and smoothly onto your face. Don't smear it into your face really hard. Just put it on real, easily. Also, remember when you dip it into the blush, tap it off a little bit to get that excess powder off, okay? Because you just want it to look natural. You don't want it to be like, unless you're going to 80s party or something, right? Okay, and then the last thing is, I know some of you might be like, do I really need 6 brushes? Why can't I just, or why do I need 2 brushes or 3 brushes for my eyeshadow? Each brush does have its own purpose, I guess, you know, and if you want your makeup to look the way it should, or to be blended the way it should, that's what that brush is made for, okay? So even if you're going on vacation or something, if you feel like, I just don't want to take all of these different brushes, like I said, go to those basic 6 and you can still, your makeup can look fabulous while you're out on vacation. There's a lot of fun brushes, so let's go on and let's talk about the fun brushes, okay? There's that fan brush. I don't even have one, you guys, but that fan brush is really pretty. Let me see if I can make one. So like it would look like like this, but then it would be completely fanned out. You know what I'm talking about now? It looks just like this. It's a fan brush. So you take that, and it's real flat, and you would dip it in your highlighter or something, and it's perfect for adding your highlighter up on top where you would be using a luminizer, okay? The fan brush is good for that. Let's see. What other fun brushes do we have here? I just have, oh, I haven't talked about this one. This is like a, you know, for your mascara afterwards, after applying your mascara. I do usually take it, especially when I put our 4D on. Our 4D doesn't clump, but sometimes my eyelashes get so thick. I just have our waterproof one today. But our eyelashes get so thick that I have to kind of run it and run it on there just to spread out my eyelashes. So this is a good brush that I do like having on hand to use for mascara. And then I also have a lip brush. There's lip brushes, which are fun. This one's a real fun one just because it just automatically pops up. Our lip brushes will help apply your lipstick more precisely into those areas rather than just putting the whole lipstick on there and then being like, oh, I got a whole big spot down here. Use your lip brush instead and have fun with that. Let me see what else I wrote down. Foundation brushes. There's lots of different foundation brushes out there. There's rounded, there's tapered. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, the fan brush, talked about that already. So what other fun brushes do you have that I didn't mention? I don't know. There's so many brushes out there, you guys. So I think, I mean, even for eyeshadow, I have other eyeshadow brushes. I have like an angled one, and I have a real thin one that I used to use this in my eyebrows before I got my smaller one. And just play around with them. If you get a new brush and you want to get adventurous with it, look it up. What can I do with a big powder brush or with a lip brush or whatever, okay? Get creative with it. That's the fun thing even about makeup. I've seen people who use, like I use my bronzer for my eyeshadow just because I don't want to always take the time to get out eyeshadows. Now, I do love doing my eyeshadow more often for sure now. All right, let's finish up this video with cleaning our brushes, okay? It's really important to clean your brushes. You should probably be washing them at least once a week, okay? And I'm not necessarily meaning wash them. Just get that powder out of them, especially like foundation brushes, get that gunk out of them. We have an amazing brush cleaner. And this is, you spray this directly, it says spray it directly on the soiled brush, wipe it on tissue, and repeat until the brush is ready to use. No rinse necessary. So that's what I really love about it, because I've noticed like when I use water with a brush cleaner, it tends to change the shape of my brush. Even though they say just like let it dry overnight or whatever and it'll keep that shape, I still feel like it messes with it. But our brush cleaner is amazing and it's super easy. Let me see if I got a brush here to clean. We can clean my concealer brush because I'm pretty sure I haven't cleaned this. So I have just paper towel, and then I have this really cool, you don't have to have this, but this is like a little brush cleaning egg, and it has these ridges on here, and so I love that I can just scrub my brush on there and I feel like it really gets it cleaned out well. Okay, so I'm going to spray it. So then see, it's just like an oily type look, and then I'm going to take it on my brush cleaner. Let's see, look, it's got concealer coming off of it already on my little egg thing. And I'm just brushing it on there. And then I'm going to wipe it off on my paper towel. So it's still got makeup on it. I'll keep going. Then I'll probably rub it some more on my little egg thing. Wipe it on my towel. And then that's it. It's clean. There's nothing else coming out of it, so it's good to go. How long did it take me? Maybe 30 seconds? Okay, so it's important to clean your brushes because our brushes hold all of that gunk in them as well, okay? You know, if you don't want to get an infection or a rash or other things that could happen from having dirty brushes, it's important to take care of your brushes. Also, if you're buying our Younique brushes, you're making an investment, and so take care of those brushes because you want them to last a really long time, okay? So take care of your brushes, take care of your face, and let me know if you guys have any other questions, or if I didn't answer something about a makeup brush, or if I didn't go into enough details about a makeup brush. I know the video kind of went a little bit long, but I hope I covered everything about makeup brushes. I think the rest of the videos this week will be a little bit shorter, because those are just like one specific item or thing, you know. So this was all the different brushes, which is kind of a big topic. But okay, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.